Hello, everyone. This is Jarvis Escott with What's Happening in Birmingham. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of being with Dr. Nadia Richardson, who is president and founder of No More Martyrs. I'm here to talk about two important topics today. September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and also on September the 10th is Worldwide Suicide Prevention Day. So, Dr. Richardson, thank you for taking time out your day to talk about this topic.
Thank you for having me.
I guess the first question I want to ask you is, what is suicide?
Suicide is the intentional act of taking one's life.
Okay, okay. Of course, corresponding with these two important events coming up, what in your professional experience, what have you noticed over the last couple of years? I know it's been mentioned in the news with Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade. How is society changing about this important epidemic?
Sure. I think probably one of the more striking trends, and it's interesting that you mentioned Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, because the same week that we lost both of them, the CDC released a study about the rise of suicide in the United States over the past several years. And one of the statistics that they came up with is that it is now the 10th leading cause of death. And they've actually broken it down by state, how it has risen in each state. So, for example, in Alabama, it's risen nearly 22%. So
Okay.
the rise is probably the most interesting and disturbing trend in regards to suicide.
Okay, so what are some myths? Let's kind of start there
Sure.
first.
So even though there is a rise in suicide, there is still an apprehension about discussing it. So one of the myths is if you are concerned about someone and think that they may be considering suicide, that if you actually engage them in conversation, you're going to be encouraging that thought. And that's actually not the case. That's a myth. If you actually engage someone, it's going to serve as a support and an opportunity for them to express further what they're feeling and thinking.
Okay, okay. Let's go back for a second. Is suicide and mental health, are they related or are they separate?
They're related and they're separate.
Okay.
So I would say that not everyone who is lost to suicide was managing a diagnosed or even a diagnosable mental health concern. However, there are a lot of individuals who are lost to suicide who have been battling a mental health concern. And so suicide ends up being what they sense is a form of relief. It's a relief to not have to manage this anymore if I am no longer here. However, the CDC actually detailed quite a bit in their study that there was other things like, difficult relationships, financial concerns, loss of employment, a lot of other things that contribute to the rise in suicide. So not all of the issues that were laid out in the CDC study point specifically to mental health. However, all of those things can contribute to someone being in mental distress.
Okay. What are some resources out right now to kind of help people that people may not know about?
Sure. So there's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the hotline, and we can give that number at the end. And there's also the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and they are known more so for their Out of the Darkness walk that they do every year across the country. And then there are different crisis centers in different cities. I know in Alabama we have a very well-utilized crisis center that I encourage a lot of individuals to tap into.
Okay, one thing I just thought about when we was talking about myths earlier, that I guess one thing about suicide, I guess you can agree or disagree, this span across economic, backgrounds. So
Oh.
it doesn't have to be whether you're rich or poor, what
Absolutely.
status, how much you make. And I guess another thing as far as racial background as well. What are some things you've noticed in the last couple of years that has kind of changed people's perceptions on it?
Sure. So the loss of notable individuals to suicide has definitely shifted the conversation to consider that you can experience mental health concerns, mental distress, mental illness, and suicidal ideation, regardless of your race, gender, class, education level, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, gender identity. It really doesn't matter. Anyone can experience these things. So I feel like having lost some individuals that were very notable to suicide, it has brought that to a lot of individuals' attention. For No More Martyrs, specifically because we are a mental health awareness campaign that seeks to build a community of support for Black women, when we kind of launched, it was around the loss of 3 Black women, notable Black women, to suicide, and it was Karen Washington, who was the founder of a blog called For Brown Girls, T.T. Branch, who was the co-founder of Miss Jessie's Hair Products, and Simone Battle, who was a contestant on The X Factor.
Oh.
And we lost all 3 of them in 2014 to suicide. And the reason No More Martyrs even came about is because when they were lost, there was a lot of conversation around, well, they were all beautiful, they were all educated, they were all successful. This was a selfish act. What did they have to be sad about? Why would they make this decision? And I really wanted to shift the conversation. Well, what do you think mental health looks like? What do you think suicide looks like? Do you think it's always going to be someone who is balled up in a corner and incapable of going about their life? Or do you not realize that it could be the CEO of a company, or the minister of a church, or an elected official that could be managing these concerns? So I definitely see that the conversation around mental health and mental illness and suicide is shifting to be more inclusive and more understanding. Now, in regards to differences in the experiences of suicide, statistics would say that women attempt more, but men are lost more.
Okay.
And it's because of the methods that women may use versus the methods that men may use. Men are more likely to use a firearm than women who may utilize maybe a substance. We also know that even though No More Martyrs is a mental health awareness campaign that seeks to build a community of support for Black women, that Black women are actually lost less. However, a lot of that has to do with the community supports that we feel obligated to. So, for example, it doesn't mean that Black women don't consider or manage or battle with suicidal ideation. There's this idea, though, that if they are lost, there are so many individuals that they that rely on them in regards to being caregivers, children, spouses, whether they're caring for other individuals' children, whether they hold a role in their communities, whether they're caring for aging parents. So there's that actually serves as a preventative. Now, with that being said, it actually adds to a level of stress and distress that Black women experience, which is why a lot of times in regards to our campaign, we're encouraging Black women to tap into resources, support systems, but also don't underestimate the power of relationships, because there's also research that shows that Black women having and making time for their relationships. We joke about just girlfriends. Oh, you're just going to dinner with girlfriends, but that actually having those relationships can serve as a preventative of sorts.
What are some signs? I know you can never tell the signs, but what are some signs that if you have a friend or a loved one that you may feel that's becoming suicidal, to intervene?
Sure.
Yeah.
So a sign can be that they're talking about it.
Okay.
That they are actually openly talking about not wanting to be here anymore, thinking that the world would be better off without them, their loved ones would be better off without them. Sometimes it could be a shift in mood. And I know a lot of times when you say that, our automatic thought is, well, their shift is that they went from being in a good mood to a bad mood. But it could be that they've been in a bad mood for a very long time, and now it's shifted to a good mood. And it's shifted to a good mood because they've given up. And so now they are almost excited about the decision that they've made to end their lives. So, there's that. If they start giving away their things, they start giving away money, giving away items, things that mean something to them and have some value to them. There is that. So those are probably some of the signs that come off the top of my head.
Okay. So once you notice those signs, what are some ways you can kind of, I guess best way to say, intervene, but kind of take proactive steps to help that person?
Sure. So, one of the things I do encourage most people to do, really everyone to do, is get some kind of training. So mental health first aid training, there's actually a component of that training that speaks to strategies on how to engage and support someone who is experiencing suicidal ideation. Also, question, persuade, respond, QPR training is also a valuable tool and resource. And both of those trainings would say, ask them directly. If you feel as though someone is considering, suicide, to ask them directly, are you thinking about ending your life? Are you thinking about suicide. And it's a very uncomfortable question to ask someone, but it's also a jarring question because for that individual who may feel as though no one cares about them, no one is paying any attention, it will help them realize that somebody is paying attention and someone does care, and so it opens up the opportunity for them to have that conversation and receive support. Having the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline hotline on hand is something I also encourage as well. But most of us, a lot of individuals have smartphones. You can kind of Google it really quickly and sit with someone. If they respond yes, ask them if maybe you can, encourage them to call and sit with them, talk to them, encourage them to tap into resources in that moment. So those are two really, really great ways. Asking them directly, encouraging them to tap into a lifeline, also encouraging them to tap into other resources, a crisis center, but also as an individual, making sure that you have the training so that you're prepared.
Okay, let me go back for a moment and talk about your organization.
Okay.
So what how did you, I know you said when you started, but when you first started, what did you have in mind? What did you think?
Well, that's the funny
or
thing.
even the name.
Sure. So that's kind of the funny thing. We didn't start out as a nonprofit organization. I was not too long out of grad school, and my research was the experiences of Black female college students with mental health concerns. And so I was interested, I was passionate, but then when we lost the three women that I mentioned earlier to suicide, and I saw some kind of unhealthy conversations taking place online, I thought, no, we need to have healthier conversations. So I started a Facebook page. That really was what it was. And I used the name Martyr because in my research, I used critical race theory, critical race feminism, and Black feminist thought. And there is a concept in Black feminist thought that's, been around for years of martyrdom. And it really talks about the socio-historical and socio-cultural factors that feed into this idea that Black women are supposed to be of service to everyone else but themselves, and really so to their deficit. So they don't prioritize their wellness, they don't prioritize their health, and so in a sense they're martyring themselves. So the idea of martyrdom it's been around for a while. However, when we lost Karen Washington, there was a reporter that wrote an article about her, and at the end of his article he said, Karen will always be remembered as a martyr, but the problem is that we don't need anymore. And so for me, that's really where the name came from, understanding the concept of martyrdom from Black feminist thought and critical race feminism, but having that, reporter use that word in the article about Karen Washington. I read that article and I said, no, we don't need any more martyrs, no more martyrs. That's where the name came from. And what ended up happening is when the Facebook page launched, we were kind of inundated. We had a number of individuals that reached out. We shared articles, we shared resources, but people kept asking for more. They said, I need to find a counselor. Can you help me find a counselor? And for me, being, in Birmingham, Alabama, it didn't matter if you were calling me from Arizona, if you were calling me from New York. It really just took a matter of searching the internet, finding out where you are, and getting you connected. And we were able to do that. And then we started having licensed mental health professionals, psychiatrists, social workers following us, and they started saying, well, this is fantastic. We've never seen anything like this. What can we do to help? And I said, well, we need licensed professionals to answer some of these questions for us. And so now we have licensed professionals that help. So it grew from there. We started having free webinars, different online events. And once it grew to a point where it was like, okay, this is beyond me sustaining it at my kitchen table on my computer for fun, I really needed to be something more. That's when we became a nonprofit organization and were able to secure some grant funding and launch things like our monthly support groups that now meet here in Birmingham and in Washington, D.C., and in the Philadelphia area and in Atlanta, and hopefully expanding on to some other cities, and launching initiatives like our Sister Speak Suicide Awareness Initiative, which really hones in the conversation of suicide as it is experienced by Black women, because a lot of times Black women are left out of the mental health awareness conversation. We are making that our priority and our niche.
Okay. So do you have any upcoming events coming up later on the rest of this year?
Oh goodness. So July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month,
Mm-hmm.
right? We did so many different activities. We did some activities in Atlanta. We hosted our annual conference here in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
We did a trip to Brazil where we did some research on Black women and colorism as it is experienced in Brazil and as it relates to mental health. We're taking a break.
Okay.
so we
Okay.
so we outside of our regular ongoing online engagement
Mm-hmm.
and our monthly support groups that meet again in various cities, we're kind of tailing down our major events for the rest of 2018 so we can really get things going strong for 2019.
Okay. One question just came in my head. I want to go back to how you can help. Is there anything people can do in the workplace if they see their coworker?
Sure. No,
Resource?
it would be the same thing.
Mhm.
Now, it's a little trickier sometimes when you're talking about a workplace because it's a sensitive topic, and depending on what kind of rapport and relationship you have and how comfortable you are engaging an employee that way or a colleague that way, but it would be the same thing.
Okay.
Sometimes, it's the smallest small talk. It is just engaging someone, it's letting them know that you're there, sometimes letting them know what you see, but doing it in a way that is compassionate and empathetic. You don't want to go and do the Sinclair woo woo woo. You don't want to patronize anyone, but you do want to let people know that you see that maybe they are struggling on the job. Maybe their focus is off. Maybe their mood seems sad. Maybe they're just not able to engage with the rest of the colleagues at work in the way that they had been in the past. You can just kind of ask. And a lot of times people will let you know just by asking.
Okay.
What I've said a lot of times also is, we say it all the time when you're passing people on the street, how are you doing today? And you say it as you're going, right? How you doing today? And people just say fine. Okay, I'm fine. But if you really stop, make that eye contact and say, how are you doing today? And not necessarily take the fine and okay, but no, how are you really doing? I've had a number of people break down in either tears or really just open up and tell you exactly what's going on if you give enough time to ask, how are you doing really? And not just stop at the I'm fine and I'm okay.
Okay. I guess one thing I want to left, is there any more final thoughts you want to tell the audience?
Sure. Sure. I would say definitely connect to No More Martyrs. You can follow us online. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can reach out to our Facebook page, or rather our website, which is nomoremartyrs.org. We are a growing organization, so if you're interested in having a chapter in your city, in your church, or on your college campus, you can certainly reach out to us and we can get that going. If you have health fairs or crisis centers that you would like to maybe have some of our material available at your churches, at your counseling centers, at your crisis centers, let us know and we'll mail you a package of information. Because there are a number of resources that we do provide. We have our annual conference, which is a Minority Mental Health Awareness Summit. We have our monthly support groups. We have our Sister Speak Suicide Awareness initiative that was done in collaboration with the Black Women's Health Initiative, which is a larger nonprofit in the DC area. But we also are in the process of developing retreats. We also connect individuals to services. So if you're looking for a counselor, we connect individuals to services. And we do advocacy, because a lot of times individuals are not treated equitably based on their mental health concerns. You can be discriminated against based on your mental health concerns in the same way you can for race, class, gender, sexual orientation. So we make sure that we support individuals so that they don't experience that. And we do have a social justice component. We do speak against injustices that we believe wreak havoc on our mental well-being. So if there's someone who's experiencing some form of discrimination and they feel as though that's contributing to their depression and anxiety, we support them in regards to their depression and anxiety, but we also support them in making sure that they get the justice that they feel like they need.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Richardson, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll also post some links, National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and the website and everything. So Thank you all again, and please check out my website, what'shappeningbirmingham.com, for more videos. Thank you all again, and bye-bye.